Hey everybody. Hey everybody. So this is the first time I'm airing after the new year. um the new year to some. It's actually my new year. Let's see. Uh so it's actually my new year yesterday. And I'll explain that to you guys throughout the year of what I've been learning about recently and why you guys see me so calm and why you guys see uh, uh, like good around me and peace. Um, I'll say something. If it's not for you, if it disturbs your spirit, get from around it. I don't care who it is. I don't care what it is. Get from around it. Interrupt it. Just say I don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, a few things. We have Brothers and Boricuas every Thursday coming up. Brothers and a Boricua. Let me correct that. Every Thursday coming up with our brother Jamil and our brother Lungi. Please make sure y'all tune in. They are great everyday topics. Last week, man, the men really did a great job at kind of putting me to the side and them taking the wheel. Lungi did a great job. I'm very proud of him and what he's done. This week, I'm sure you guys saw that Monday we had Meeting of the Minds reunion. The topic was, is it okay to tell other men or women that they're beautiful or handsome and you're in a serious relationship? Go back and watch it, man. Don't want to miss it. And of course, we will be having Meeting of the Minds crew come in periodically. Jamil and Lungi and them have a men's group that they're about to do. Please involve yourselves, especially if you're men, to tune into their topics and what they're talking about. I think that they're still working on that. I guess they'll let me know when they're ready. So I'd like to really see. On that one, I'm going to take the back wheel and you won't even see me on the screen, but I'll be, there, but not there. That makes sense. What else? We See You Human Justice Organization is up to the top with cases. I am no longer taking cases. However, this is what I'll do. If you reach out to the organization and you're needing assistance, we will make sure that we transfer the case to an activist that I know will help, because I don't take cases that we're not going to help. You guys keep your focus on whatever it is that you're doing. Make your vision board and continue for the rest of the year to focus on those things. Now, for my guest for today. So today I have one of We See You Human Justice Organization's very own clients, and the last case that I took. And his name is Jermontae Moss. I'm about to add him to the screen and he can introduce himself, but I want you guys to hear the story. And as he explains the story, because I'm going to kind of let him go gung-ho, and I might interrupt him from time to time. As he explains the story, I want you guys to kind of not look at the big deal with what the ending sentences, right? Let's look at the circumstances all around it, and let's look to see if there's any laws that maybe we can change, or somebody who watches this can help in any shape, form, or manner with this case. So, Monte, hello, how you doing?
I'm fine. How about yourself? Good evening.
You said what?
Or good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon.
So good evening or good afternoon.
It's good afternoon. Good afternoon. And welcome to Lunchtime with Anna. And I appreciate you taking the time, right, to explain and tell your story. So go ahead. Tell us, what's your story?
Okay, well, first, my name is Jermontae Moss. I'm 28 years old. I was charged with murdered when I was 17 years old and subsequently sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Um, I had a lot going on as a child, not to make any excuses for what happened or, what I went through or what I took anybody else through. But I feel like my situation was very peculiar, to say the least, as far as my sentencing and the way that I was prosecuted and tried. But I went through a lot. Starting as a youth, I saw violence a lot in my own household with my own mom and my father. My father attacked my mom in front of my sister and I, and so I had a rough upbringing early when I was 4 or 5 years old, things like that. So I strive to get away from those things and to make a better life. I didn't want to see that in me, and I definitely didn't want to take that same pattern to
It looks like he's having technical difficulties. It looks like we lost him, but he'll be right back. But so this is my question, and I'm going to ask him now that he's back. You lost signal real quick, and that's okay. I want to go back. And I'll interrupt you periodically because I know that when we're telling our story, we just kind of tell our story, right? Because we know our story best. But I'm sure that the audience has questions as well. So let's go back to your childhood. There was domestic violence in the household, and situations that maybe really affected you different than maybe even your sister, your sibling. That type of trauma affects people in different ways. So you deal with that. How did that affect you? That trauma that you could recall around the age of 4 or 5 affect you through to the age of 17, if I may, if you're willing to share.
I responded differently to aggression. I responded differently to anything that I felt was against me, to the point where there wouldn't be any type of understanding. I wouldn't try to understand anyone. I would just try to end the situation, favorably to me. As long, because that was I saw my mom really almost die. So that was something that I said I would never allow happen to her or me. So those things were, I didn't allow it. I didn't allow it. So my actions toward people, even though I didn't consider myself an aggressive person, but in lieu of that situation, I saw that it was definitely a need to be aggressive, and that's what happened.
So throughout your childhood, right? If I may, because I want the listening audience to get as much of I'm gonna call you Monte, as much of Monte as possible, okay? And to know who you really are. You say that it caused aggression. Did your family seek for you to have therapy, or was that something because if you're close to my age, they didn't believe in no therapy back then. Parents, they were just like, you just need a good spanking, I bet you won't do it again, that type of thing, So I'm just, because nowadays it's like everything like, oh, you need therapy, oh, you need medication, that was, look, my parents weren't with that. I don't know how yours were, but I don't look, pecozón en la boca. That means a slap in the mouth, and I bet you won't do it again. That type of thing, you know? So for you, what did that look like? You know, everybody's household is structured different, right? I'm just talking about my parents.
Right. Well, I definitely was not a stranger to a belt or a board or switch or anything like that. I wasn't a stranger to it. I got a lot of those growing up. I got disciplined a lot. Whether it was at home or in school, my mom just didn't. She wasn't going for it, and so you know, I definitely dealt with that up until I was maybe 13 or 14, and my mom kind of started giving us a little independence. But I was counseled. I did a lot of psychological counseling from, I guess you would say, maybe age 10 or 11 to about 13. I did counseling every week, and I was taking medication for what they were saying was maybe ADHD or things of that nature. But
now, may I
it
ask
definitely, I feel like the things that I saw.
Now, may I ask, because there's been studies that have shown that different medications cause lifetime mental issues. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. Please don't misinterpret me. I do have medical background, and that's why I know so much. What, if you may share, what was the medication you were prescribed at the time?
I took Ritalin for some months, I know, and then I took Concerta for maybe another year or so.
Okay, so I really, you know, as your activist, we really need to look at the effects of Ritalin, especially. Ritalin has been known to, let's just say, change a lot of the chemistry in the brain. So it's something I'd like to look at along with you, you know, and see what medically we could do about it, because it is something that really does happen. And remind me to do the research on that for you. When I met Jermontae, he is the most respectful, probably all my clients are anyways, but probably in the top 3 of the most respectful, that, you know, yes ma'am, no ma'am, this, that. And it was just almost like I felt like I was speaking to one of my children, and it just broke my heart that so young, you're 17 years old, and this is the state of Georgia law. This is the law in the state of Georgia. From the time you're 13, you can be tried as an adult in the state of Georgia. This is one of the laws I am working and planning as a human justice organization on changing these laws for a Jermontae out there. Right now, I got a case of 2 kids out of Bibb County, Macon, Georgia, 15 and 17 years old, being charged with malice murder. And I don't think their mom understands the severity of what's going on. They're another Jermontae. I have to change the laws, because I'm not saying that taking a life is okay. Never misinterpret where I'm coming from as a human rights activist. But what I'm saying is, you don't need to be in jail with those in prison with those men, period. Not at that age. So anyhow, I think I'm losing Jermontae again. But if we do, I'll have them come on to the next part. Yeah. So it's just something that I'm working on. I asked for the public to give as much support as possible for when I do go speak to these senators, go speak to these Congress representatives, go speak to different people within the community to try to get support on changing these laws, because I understand that you're strict. I understand that you don't want crime in your state, but it depends on the crime also, because if they're what you call other crimes, sometimes we turn our face, and we've got to change this whole dynamic of what's going on there. Now, Jermontae, so we go on, you go to therapy. What
Yes.
happens between the ages of 13 and 17? How does your behavior change once the therapy stops, once you turn around and you got more freedom? What happens then? I think he's having technical difficulties again.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
Yeah. What happens between the age of 13 and 17? Because you mentioned that then the therapy stops around that age, and now your mom gave you guys more freedom.
Right.
What happens then? Is she by herself, might I ask? Or
Right.
is your dad still in the household then?
Right. Okay. Between 13 and 17, I feel like I was just trying to figure a lot out on my own. I didn't have the help of someone to kind of sit down and ask me what were my interests, or what's troubling me, what may be some things that I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have that type of guidance. My mom was there and she did her best. But I didn't have that type of structure around me from that age, from 13 to 17. I just didn't. So I tried to figure out a lot on my own. My role models, my brother, my oldest brother, was someone that I really looked up to. And when I was 14, he went to prison and kind of left me, on my own, so to speak. So that did a lot. He was someone that I was around a lot. He was someone that I looked up to, that I would talk to and try to get some type of guidance from. And when he went to prison, it just shocked me. It shocked me. He did 7 years in prison. So from 14 until I was 21, he was still in prison. So that was a lot. It was a lot. I was trying to figure it out and doing the best I could. But from 13 to 17, I started getting in a lot of trouble in school. I started fighting, which I never really had problems with that, but I started fighting and getting into it with teachers. I had an aggressive streak that I didn't know how to explain. I didn't know how to talk to anybody about it, but there was just a lot going on.
What grade did this start in, the aggression?
Ninth.
And ninth grade, that would have made you about 14, 15, correct?
You're right, 14, 15. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what happened that you think caused the aggression? Was there bullying? Was there just, do you think, were you still, well, let me first ask, were you on medication then? Still?
I wasn't on I wasn't on medication at that time though.
Okay. Now, my next question is, what do you think was causing the violence?
Um, Going back to when my mom was assaulted by my father, I felt like she was very helpless. She was very helpless. We were helpless. And I felt like because she was a woman and we were a child, there was nothing, that we could kind of do about the situation. So that helplessness, I feel like, drove me to say I would never let anyone make me feel helpless like that again. And when I was met with that type of energy, when someone would try to belittle me or bully me or say anything to me that made me feel like I was helpless, I would react with that aggression because I did not want to be a victim. So that
I just kind
I'm
of want
sorry.
to briefly, no, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. I want to briefly kind of read something to you I just found just looking. Um, and this is the after effects of Ritalin. Like I said, I have medical background, and this medication was actually prescribed to my son, who is ADHD and diagnosed with autism. So I did do research, and that's why that was one of my first questions. There is a reasoning behind it. So when I look
Okay.
up, Ritalin intake may result in permanent brain damage if prescribed within childhood. Doctors don't tell you this. They tell you there is no side effect. I would like to speak to your family so that we could do some more research on this. Now, prefrontal cortex may be the main role in highly integrated executive, cognitive, and behavioral functions. See what I'm saying? So there are side effects to those medications that maybe your mom wasn't told about. And I'm not blaming the medication. Don't mistake what I'm saying, but I'm saying all of these things may have had a factor in why things happen the way that they happen. So go ahead. You wouldn't pretty much, I'm not putting up with this. We're not doing this. What school district were you in? What county were you living at then?
Houston County.
Houston County. And
Right.
you told me that, and I know that. Okay, so there's aggression. By then, what is the school district saying? What is your mom saying? What actions are being taken? And this is what I'm assuming your 10th or 11th grade.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So around that time, ninth and 10th grade, there was nothing done about it as far as to find out the root of the issue. Nobody tried to assess that, but only the punishment side. You do this and now you are suspended from school, or you do this and now you're in school suspension, or you're going to now you have to go to the alternative school. And that's all there was.
It was just always some type of punishment, but there was never a solution.
Right.
So it was kind of, and I tell people this is a vicious cycle. That's how it starts. It starts at home, then we go on to school, and usually that's what happens. Then we're on to the system. And when I say the system, where you're at now. So, okay, you're now having problems or whatever. You're 17. What happens then?
I was 17. I started to around 16, I guess you would say, more so 17 though. Now I have I'm not in school, I'm not in high school. I have my GED at that time, so I have a lot of free time. I'm out. I started to meet other people, started to hang out with older people and getting out into things that I wasn't into as a younger teenager. I started getting exposed to guns and drugs and just a lifestyle that I just had never really seen, before. So, and I clenched, I clenched to that lifestyle. Right. That was something that, I guess you would say I understood, but didn't really understand. So.
Are you saying you felt at home, so to speak, at that point in your life? That's fair. That's fair. And I appreciate the transparency when it comes to that. Now, you're 17, you're hustling, hanging out in the streets, doing what people do out on the streets. We all know, if we ain't been there, we know somebody who has. No shame in anybody's game. We've all been there one way or another.